Okay, we're rolling. So welcome to another episode of the Harvey Warrington Media Podcast. Today we're joined by an industry tycoon, heavyweight, known as the Queen of Aesthetics Training, Maxine, the proud owner and CEO of Cosmetic Couture, who have been established since 2010 and are a multi-seven-figure training academy, one of the first of its kind to innovate the industry as to where we are today. So Maxine, just for the listeners who may not know who you are, tell us a bit about you and what it is you do and what we're going to talk about today.
Yeah, so I've been in the aesthetic industry pretty much since it started in 2010. So I've been here for a very long time, and over the last 15, 16 years, we've seen more and more non-medics enter the aesthetics field, and we've seen the industry change and grow rapidly. It's a multi-billion pound industry, as we all know, but it's rapidly changing too. And we've got pending regulations which have just been announced, and the industry is in a little bit of a limbo land at the moment. What do we do in business? What do we do to future-proof?
100%. So something we're going to talk about today is a preemptive measure and also like a warning for non-medics in the industry is the industry is about to change forever, right?
It is, yeah.
It's going to cause a lot of problems for a lot of people who have businesses. So let's talk about what's coming into place and how this is going to affect non-medics specifically.
Right, so we all know, everybody's spoke about it for many years, regulations are coming, but everybody thinks that it was not going to happen. Now, yesterday, we've had the biggest announcement in the aesthetic industry that we've ever heard, which is proposed regulations to be put in force by September and May of next year in Scotland. So for those who are watching, you might think, well, it's Scotland, it's not us, but it's like a test run. Once they do it, Ireland will follow, Wales will follow, we will follow. So there are lots of changes coming, but one of the proposed things is premises licenses, qualifications, a personal license, accountability, and that's going to change our industry forever. The fast track courses that we've done for many years and not being accountable as a non-medic is the main reason why we are being regulated.
So what does this mean for practitioners who have CPD qualifications? Are they going to have to retrain? Are they going to mean anything when these new regulations come in? What does it mean for
So CPD has always been, it's something that, like insurance want you to have to show that you've done something. And I was actually the first company to bring CPD to aesthetics. So CPD has been used since 2015, and that was CPD standards. And the way that the industry is looking, there's going to be a minimum sort of like educational standards. That's not going to be CPD because it's not a standardised qualification. And for those that don't understand that, a certificate is a certificate. It means you've attended and you've come away from your course, you've started your business and you've got, experience by doing the treatments, but you don't hold a recognised qualification, and that's what's going to replace CPD. So we all know levels, level 4, 5, 6 and 7, different awarding bodies that have produced these qualifications in line with frameworks, and they're there because it's needed. It's needed for practitioners to show that I am qualified, I'm not certified.
Right, so talking about everybody who's in the industry, who is trained, who's scared of regulations, what does this mean for your average non-medic who's built a business? Like, how is this going to affect them?
If the proposed licensing comes in place in Scotland, it affects everyone. It affects businesses because it's not achievable to have, for those who don't know what HIS registration is, it's a premises similar to CQC in the UK. So for every person to have that and a medic on site is going to be impossible. So it's not restriction, it's not stopping a non-medic from doing treatments, but it's making it a little bit difficult. And for those who've got bigger businesses with bigger plans, you're well known in the industry, you advertise, you do everything right, you're going to get through it. But the smaller businesses, they're the ones that are going to suffer because it isn't achievable. And this is why, with the proposed regulations that are coming, anyone who's watching this should get involved, and object, because now's your time to object and future-proof your business for what's coming.
So for a small clinic who might have a home clinic or perhaps they're renting a room,
Yeah,
how is it going to affect them? Like,
you're not going to
what's
be
going
able
to
to
happen?
do it. That's the sad facts. You're not going to be able to do it because it's going to have to be a premises that's registered. Maybe I'm just saying surmising CQC, HIS, if if it all goes through, and that's not obtainable to be able to do that. So people are going to be looking at like their business module in general. What do I do? Do I do facials? Do I do machinery? Do I do peels? Can I add more treatments into my business so that I'm still able to function as a business? Because all businesses have liabilities and they're worried about if this goes, are they going to end up in debt? Are they going to lose what they've worked hard for? That's the main concern and focus in the industry right now.
So for anybody who may not know, the regulations, what exactly are they going to be? What treatments can't people do? What roadblocks are being put in place by the regulatory boards right now, which is going to cause such a problem in the industry? It's good. Did you hear the question?
Yeah, I did. So
Okay.
we've got three groups, three proposed groups. In Scotland, you've got group one, two, three. Here we've got green, red, amber. So lower risk treatments like peels, microneedling, machinery that doesn't carry a risk or the intervention of a medic is in group one. You're still going to have a qualification. So that's looking like a level four. Many awarding bodies that offer this. Then you've got group two, your dermal fillers, your Botox, things that carry risk and that can have an adverse effect. So at some point you're going to need either a prescription or the intervention of a medic, and that's going to require up to a level seven qualification. The group three, the red category means total restriction ban, so it's medics only. And if you look at the proposed groups, some of the treatments that we all perform, even me, could be restricted to somebody like me or somebody else who is an expert in their field who does these treatments day in, day out. Now that doesn't sit right with me.
Why do you think regulations are coming into place? Like, do you think they are with good intentions, or do you think there's a deeper meaning behind this?
Well, I have to say it from two sides. So, number one, having been involved in everything since the beginning, since the first meeting was launched for Health Education England, it's been spearheaded by organisations, and there's a lot of organisations involved, and they're predominantly medics. And if I'm being really honest, they've never wanted non-medics in the industry. They think it should be medic only, and that's the truth. But also on the same side, the industries grew that big that I expose daily people doing treatments in the back of cars, caravans. um, I did one yesterday. There was a bike in the background, and someone didn't have PPE, and there's alcohol in the background. This is where we're at in the aesthetic industry. Of course, we need regulations, but we don't need exclusion for, let's say, grandfather clause people that have done these treatments for many years. They shouldn't be excluded, they should be included.
100%. So, what are your thoughts on medics saying that this should only be a medical industry because of the complications that can go wrong? I think the argument is a lot of
Yeah,
medics say if there is a complication and
yeah,
it's serious, a non-medic isn't medically trained to solve that. And what are your
yeah.
thoughts on that?
In my head, I'm singing "It's All About the Money." So it's not about it. Look, it is partially about patient safety, of course it is, but they're not medical treatments either. Some of them because they're vatable. There's a certain element of treatment that is medical aesthetics, but it all boils down to money.
Just for the viewers listening, Maxine's had to tune in on her phone today because there was a problem with the laptop. She's a very busy lady. The phone might ring a little bit throughout this
Because
conversation. So,
everyone's ringing, they're upset, they're nearly crying, am I going to lose my business? It's like people don't see that side of things. It's upsetting for the industry because they don't feel safe. To be in limbo and see something, people who've opened shops, took loans, and paid for all these qualifications, and then they're thinking, well, what if it goes that way? What's going to happen to me? And that's not the side that people talk about either.
What kind of effect do you think this is going to have on a lot of businesses? Are they
They'll
going to make
close.
it, or are you going to see?
The close. Only the strongest will survive. But let's not be too negative about it, because there's still plenty of time to oppose. And with enough numbers, and we're strengthening numbers. For those who are watching, the petition that I've raised hit a milestone today. We've got over 10,000 signatures. That gets us a response from government, but we need another 90,000, and that'll get us in Parliament. So we've got to keep going. But we've got plenty of time. Also, for anyone who's watching this, Scotland have released something where you can respond now. So the recent government consultation that's been released, you can now say and contribute how it will affect you. So what me and Sam were talking about is how it will affect you in your business. You can now contribute. So for those that have sat back, get online and get that filled in and be part of it.
How can people find this petition, Maxine?
On my page on Instagram, on the .gov Scotland website. If you go over to there, it's there. It's not hard. For those who think this is difficult, just be honest. Write how it affects you. What's going to happen to your business? Can you afford to have somebody on site? Can you afford a £7,000 registration fee with HIS, potentially CQC, to refurb your premises? Is that doable? No.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, sometimes I think, right, I mean, we've been working in the aesthetics industry for 6 years. As you know, we run a marketing company, we help aesthetic clinics generate more clients, generate more revenue, and grow brands. They've been talking about these regulations forever. What means now? Why is this happening now? Like, why is it not going to get put off even longer? What's different this time round?
Because it was launched in 2013. So non-medics have been doing treatment since 2008. I was one of the first. My background wasn't beauty. I had a background of sports science. When I was at university, seen an ad on Gumtree and I thought, oh, I can do Botox. Realised after it, this is an unregulated industry. And I got loads of shit for 5 years, basically. Environmental health coming, there weren't many people doing it. And then, like now, it's more widespread, it's more acceptable, more prescribers prescribed to non-medics. And, it's just grew hugely. But over the last 12 years, people have been working behind the scenes to set a framework and to bring in regulations, and it was always going to come. And we're a couple of years off it.
I sometimes wonder, right? Because I spoke to one of my clients, Dr. Haroon Ashraf, about this. We've been helping him grow his business for the past 3 years. He feels the reason the industry is unregulated is because HMRC profit billions of pounds of tax revenue from everyone buying the products, right? So what's the agenda behind this, in your opinion? Like, what is the agenda behind this? Is this like medical backed? Is this the medics trying to get out the non-medics? What do you think is the agenda here? Is it safety? It should be safety.
Well, if you
But I
look
mean,
at the
what's your take?
statistics, they're not, from someone who's in it and who, as an academy over the last 15 years, how many procedures have been performed? And we do record how many adverse effects there are. And most of the treatments are performed by people overseen by tutors. The adverse effects are not what being made out, although we can't take away from the fact that there is unlicensed toxins. Somebody lost their life. The people doing liposuction in bloody lycra shorts. Sorry, I have to laugh about that one. It's bonkers, but it's not a true depiction of what our industry is. Like, I could name really successful businesses of like women who have created these success stories. They're not the non-medic that's put out that they're a cowboy. They're not. They have created seven-figure businesses. They do pay the taxes, and they do deserve a place in the industry. And that's not a true representation.
What would you say to a medic who says we need regulation? A lot of the complications and a lot of the problems have came from non-medics. Non-medics shouldn't be allowed to practice in medical aesthetics. What would you say to them?
What I've said over the years when we've sat around tables and put our voices forward, which I don't think has been listened to. You can have a great conversation with doctors, a certain group of doctors. I'll use, there's different doctors that we work with, and they agree with non-medics doing treatments. They said there's enough room for everybody. Aesthetic practitioners have a place working alongside, let's say, Dr. G, who's very well known in the aesthetic industry, does lots of complication courses, gives clinical supervision. He said, why can't they do these treatments? It's a certain hierarchy of medics and organisational groups that do not want non-medics doing treatments.
So for a non-medic listening to this who could be, expecting the worst, because regulations are coming, right? It's inevitable. It's going to affect thousands of people. A lot of people are going to lose their businesses. They're not going to be able to train in aesthetics anymore. And it's going to be the people who are probably just starting out and new to the industry and don't have a huge surplus of cash that are going to be most affected. What would you say to them? How could you help them?
Well, I mean, we've always said it. So to any student that's come to us, we've always said that we are going to go into regulations in the future before you commit to anything. Obviously, make sure you've got a plan, because you are going to have to do regulated qualifications. That's it's there, it's in writing. You are going to have to try and be good at what you do. You're going to have to advertise, get the qualifications behind you, and add more treatments to it. Aesthetics, injectables is not the only thing, although it's heartbreaking for some people because they're thinking, am I going to have to give this up? Nobody's saying that, but we need to make sure that we do have a fair voice and that everybody contributes. So whatever is decided, it doesn't affect us in business. Safety is obviously the most paramount thing, but I just think it's not fair.
How possible do you think it is to get another 90,000 signatures?
Now I think it's possible, because it's not. If you look at how many aesthetic practitioners and medical practitioners and customers who choose to use aesthetic practitioners, not the cowboys that we see, but there are many people. I have a database of 100,000 people. If everybody signed that, I could do it alone. If people have got businesses in Wales, in Scotland, in Belfast, here, get your customers to sign it. Would your customers be forced to go to somebody they don't want to and pay higher prices? Because you've got two ways we can look at this. Prices will go high, customers won't be able to afford it, and you've also got the downside of it that it'll push it backstreet, that there will be more unlicensed products. People will be taking the cheaper option, and that's going to cause more issues. The public's more at risk.
For sure. Do you feel that perhaps, are regulations going to affect more so like skin clinics who are going to be doing a lot of microneedling, chemical peels? Perhaps they might have some devices like, body sculpting, fat freezing.
Yes.
Will they be okay, or are
Oh,
regulations
no.
coming for them as well?
Everything we do, and if you read through the JCCP statement, there's orphan treatments or anything at any point that they decide that yes, we need to get this, we need to get this under, the regulation scope of treatments. So there might be something that comes up, or a machinery that comes up, and it needs classified what level it is. So nothing's safe. Some of the proposed red treatments are things like cryotherapy, which is quite a low risk treatment. BBL, obviously, we know that should be medics only, but there's lots of treatments on there, like things like rhinoplasty is quite high risk. But to someone who's well trained and who does that treatment day in, day out, I don't think there should be a restriction.
For
Who's
sure.
making the
Do you,
decisions about how risky they are based on what?
yeah, definitely. Of course, we know that the industry is massively saturated, right? Which has made it more difficult for new practitioners to succeed. Do you feel like maybe the regulations could be a good thing if only the strongest survive? And even people that are new, they take the necessary steps to make sure they can continue to practice. Do you feel that could be a good thing for the industry long term, in the sense of there'll be less competition and there'll be more clients,
Well, I've
or
seen
no?
this attitude already, which I think is quite selfish. So I've seen an attitude of, well, I've got a clinic, I'm all right, I'm safe, I've done my qualifications and things like that. Yeah, if I'm being honest, in a couple of years, if we fast forward it, Sam, if you reduce the amount of practitioners, prices will increase, people will make more money out of it. less people will train. But that's if we fast forward. But here we are now. We have practitioners that have businesses and have liabilities and everything else. And this is what we need to protect. This is what we need to make sure that these people can still carry on, and not the strongest will survive. Because you're right, that is the truth. The strongest will survive.
For sure. It is a shame, it really is. I mean, we've met some amazing practitioners over the years who are still in the building stages, and they have done all of the right training. They've trained with reputable academies like yours, Cosmetic Couture, and others. But of course, these guys are going to get affected, right? Now, how long do people have to get another 90,000 signatures to have a conversation with this in Parliament before it completely destroys the non-medical industry?
Well, on the 14th of July, the response that they want about how it will affect businesses, that needs to be back. That's for Scotland. For here, we're still in limbo about what's happening, but we do know that they will follow. If Scotland passes it by May, we're slightly behind. So I think, we've got maybe 3 to 4 months to try and get something in place. Don't leave it, don't sit back. You've got to take action. Write to your local MPs, try and get a hold of anybody in media and stuff like that, and just make a lot of noise, because it's happening.
Yeah, of course. So for viewers who might need a little bit of guidance or just help through these turbulent times, what could you do? What could Cosmetic Couture do for non-medics right now to help them brace for this storm?
Well, firstly, although, I do speak about this a lot, and I've been talking about it for a long time, and people usually think that I'm going on with myself, and it's one of those that it's not. The reason I do talk about it a lot is because I know it's coming. And what you can do is support us with what we're doing. Number one is we've done this petition. We want a fair voice. We haven't had a fair voice. We've only been invited for the numbers, and that's me speaking truthful. That's one thing. Secondly is look at your business. Speak to people who give advice, like, Alicia off the Beauty Academy, Lindsay Owens. There's lots of people. Sam himself, he does stuff with practitioners. There's loads of companies out there that you can look at your business and get some advice, but also try, I don't know what your finances are, but try and add things to your business. You are going to need to get on the regulated qualifications. A lot of academies, not just mine, they do offer payment plans and things like that. The qualifications are not done overnight. They do take a few years. So contact academies and see if you can get onto the qualifications, and just be focused and just work on your business and don't give up. You've just got to keep going forward with it.
Yeah, 100%. I completely agree. Are there any other points regarding this matter that you feel would be important to discuss now, just to educate, whoever's listening to this to the best of their ability, so they have all of the tools or
Yeah.
information they need? Is there anything else you want to add?
Yeah, so just to break it down very, very simple. If you're a non-medic, you're not getting stopped from doing treatments, but it's going to become a little bit more difficult. If the proposed recommendations get put forward, it will make things difficult, and treatments will go into category. We do need much needed regulations because our industry's a mess, that, but we also don't want to be restricted. So you are going to have to invest more into your future. Some people may give up because they might think, well, financially it's not viable for me, and that's a shame. And we are quite a few years off it, but just look at the bigger picture that, you've done a great job so far. Keep investing into your future and just keep campaigning, and, don't accept what they're proposing to do.
Yeah, yeah, 100%. Maxine, how can people find you on social media for the viewers who might not know who you are?
So we're on. You can find us through the website. You can type Cosmetic Couture in, but the main source with us is Instagram. So there's lots of industry updates, daily facts. Basically, I just speak facts of what I know. I do lives. You can go on there and just join in and ask questions and speak to other people, other aesthetic practitioners.
100%. Okay, Maxine, thank you so much for your time, and looking forward to hopefully saving the industry for non-medics who are doing things in the right way.
Hopefully saving the industry.
Day by day, saving the industry.
Yeah.